Hello there. More than 140,000 EU citizens living in the UK have reportedly received unlawful benefits from the UK state. The government now wants the money back. Well, these EU citizens had access to social benefits. After the UK left, EU citizens who wanted to continue living in the UK and claim benefits and other rights were asked by the government to apply. The ministry, led by Suella Bravermann, failed to update the residence visa database for at least 141,000 European citizens whose applications had been rejected, allowing those people to stay in the UK and continue receiving benefits. The independent monitoring authority responsible for protecting the rights of EU citizens after Brexit has expressed concerns about the impact of the situation on those affected, because the government plans to reclaim the overpaid money from the citizens. A spokesman for the agency said, "On January 18th this year, the Home Office informed us of an update to the UKVI accounts of EU settlement scheme applicants who were denied status between June 21 and April 22. The Ministry of the Interior has confirmed that this only affects people who received a refusal notice between June 27th and 21 and April 19th and 22. All persons who have received a temporary residence permit or naturalization certificate are not affected and do not have to take any action on this." And Suella Bravermann now also has a problem with her Rwanda plans. Her supporters have always happily fenced off any criticism by saying that Denmark is planning the same thing. However, the Danish government has put its plan for an asylum seeker center in Rwanda on hold for the time being. Instead, Denmark wants to work for an EU-wide solution. That's what Foreigners and Integration Minister Kare Dybvad told the online newspaper Altinget. The negotiations that have already begun about the facility in the East African country will not be continued for the time being, so they are long not at a stage like with the British. Instead, the new government that emerged from the parliamentary elections in November is campaigning for the establishment of a reception center outside of Europe in cooperation with the EU or a number of EU countries. And there is currently movement in several EU countries on this issue, said the immigration minister. Many also called for a stricter EU asylum policy, though. Before the Danish parliamentary elections, the then Social Democratic minority government of Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen had worked intensively to advance the plans for the center in Rwanda. It was considered one of her prestige projects, although it would have been wrong still. The left-wing support parties, on the other hand, were loudly up in arms. However, in June 21, a majority in the Danish parliament passed a law that would make asylum centers in other countries possible. This allows the authorities to fly asylum seekers to third countries where they have to wait for their application to be processed in Denmark. And there's a difference to the UK, I'll come back later on. The EU had distanced itself from the law and emphasized that under European law, asylum procedures could not be outsourced to third countries. Frederiksen is still in power in Copenhagen, but no longer in a minority government, but in a coalition with the liberal Venstre and the center party, the Moderates. Instead, they only wrote that a reception center should be set up outside of Europe in cooperation with the EU or a number of other countries. Denmark has had an extremely restricted immigration policy for years. But let's come back to the difference to the UK. In the Rwanda center, the applications that would have happened there, like we are talking about for a long time for a center in North Africa, so the people don't have to make the dangerous crossing, the applications would be processed for asylum in Denmark, or in the North African one, in the EU. And the difference is the applications processed in the UK center in Rwanda are for staying in Rwanda. None of them would go to the UK. So you could never have compared those two cases. and I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.